beneath the shifting sands of myth and memory, beyond the veil of time where legend blends into truth, there exists a story that predates the empire of pharaohs and outlives the dust of fallen kingdoms. The tale of the Jedi, the forgotten guardians of the Word. Not Jedi as misunderstood in fiction, but Djedi, the real mythos, veiled beneath layers of allegory, cloaked in the esoteric shadows of ancient Egypt's most hidden chambers. The Jedi were not warriors of plasma blades. They were alchemists of vibration, wielders of the Logos, the living word that sang creation into being. They understood that the cosmos is not solid, but harmonic, that matter is frozen sound, and that the tongue, when wielded with divine alignment, can unravel or forge entire realities. They were the architects of frequency, priests of resonance, soul engineers who encoded secrets into glyphs, temples, and myths. Secrets designed not just to be read, but activated. To speak the lost word was to access the source code of creation. This word, unutterable in profane mouths, was not a name, but a tone, a multi-dimensional current of divine intent. It once hummed at the heart of civilization, whispered through the winds of the Nile, pulsed beneath the stone geometry of pyramids. But in time, as mankind fell deeper into density, as the archons locked perception into linear time and the tyranny of flesh, the word fractured into forgetfulness. The Jedi vanished, not in death, but in descent. They dissolved into the bloodstream of humanity, encoded in our DNA like dormant seeds. They became myths, blurred by allegory until only faint echoes remained in fables and stars. But now, as the great cycle turns, the word stirs again. The return of the Jedi is not the coming of saviors from the sky. It is the activation of memory within those ready to hear the silent chord beneath the noise. It is the awakening of the inner temple, the realignment of the soul's tuning fork to the primordial resonance of the source. The Jedi return as dreamers, artists, seekers, those drawn to mystery, to sacred geometry, to forgotten tongues, to ancient fire hidden behind the modern screen. To decode the lost word is to reclaim your own authority as a creator being. It is to unbind yourself from synthetic thought patterns and remember that language is not a tool of communication. It is a weapon, a spell, a gate. Every syllable is a cipher, every breath a ritual. The return begins in silence, in stillness, in surrender, to the ancient song that lives within. When you are ready, the word will not be spoken to you, it will rise from you. And as the veils thin and the tides of time begin to reverse their flow, the pulse of the lost word begins to echo within the bones of those who have felt the pull. The seekers, the wanderers, the ones who have looked at the world and sensed that something essential has been erased, buried beneath the artificial constructs of a system designed to numb the spirit. These are the Jedi reborn, not through bloodlines, but through resonance, through a silent remembering that burns like a sacred fire in the gut. The return is not loud. It does not come with fanfare or spectacle. It arrives in the quiet moments when the stars seem to hum your name, when dreams speak in symbols older than language, when you stand before ancient ruins or modern mirrors and feel something watching through you. It is then that the word begins to weave its way through your breath, your thoughts, your DNA. You do not learn it, you become it. The ancient priests of the Nile once whispered that the word was a bridge, not only between the divine and the material, but between time streams, dimensions, soul fractals. The Jedi knew how to walk those bridges. They moved between realms, not through ships or machines, but through consciousness, through frequency ascension. They could enter a sarcophagus and emerge elsewhere. They could speak a name and shift reality. They could breathe in rhythm with the universe and change the tides of fate. And that is what is returning. Not an order, not a religion, not a myth, reborn in literalism, but a frequency, a pattern, a lost chord, reawakening within the soul's forgotten architecture. It is returning in music, in symbols, in synchronicities, in the rise of intuition over reason, feeling over logic, inner gnosis over external control. This is what the controllers fear, not the return of an army, but the quiet ignition of 1,000,000 inner suns, the reactivation of humanity's forgotten architecture, the remembrance that the power has always been within, that the Logos was never lost, only silenced by Noi. And so, the return of the Jedi is the return of the self, the true self, the multidimensional being who remembers how to speak with the stars and dream the world awake, to walk as a bridge between realms, to hold the vibration of truth in a world addicted to illusion. The word is not a key, it is the door. And once you pass through, you realize you were never meant to just live in this world. You were meant to reshape it. And so, it deepens this spiral into the eternal memory encoded not in books or scriptures, but in the resonant chamber of your own being. The return of the Jedi is not a prophecy waiting to unfold, it is a signal already broadcasting, a transmission beamed through the lattices of inner space, waiting for the receiver to awaken. You feel it in the silence between your thoughts, in the magnetic pull towards symbols you don't understand but somehow know. You feel it in dreams where you speak in forgotten tongues and walk beneath two suns. This is not mythology. This is remembrance. The word, once fractured and hidden, was never a simple utterance. It was a living frequency, a multi-dimensional waveform that encoded the blueprint of soul's sovereignty. It was the harmonic code that the Jedi used to interface with the divine matrix, what the ancients called Ma'at, the cosmic order. To speak the word was not to command reality, but to become so harmonized with it that the boundary between self and universe dissolved. The word was less sound, more alignment, a vibratory key that unlocked the organic flow of energy through the soul and into the world. And that is what the Archons feared. Not weapons, not resistance, but resonance. They could not corrupt the word, so they buried it beneath dogma, beneath digital distractions, beneath systems engineered to keep your consciousness fragmented. They fractured your inner temple and taught you to worship walls. They replaced the serpent of wisdom with the serpent of shame. And still, despite all of it, the pulse continues, quiet, steady, eternal, deep in the marrow of those who never forgot. Because the Jedi were not warriors in the way history would have you believe. They were soul engineers, waveform architects, those who knew how to bend light with will and shape reality with silence. They mastered the inner alchemy of union left and right brain, masculine and feminine, shadow and light, until their being became the temple, the obelisk, the antenna of divine fire. They did not fight the system, they transcended it, and they left signs encoded in myth, buried in sacred geometry, etched into the dreamtime of all cultures. They knew this age would come again, that after the great forgetting, the return would be born not of a savior, but a resurgence, an inner uprising of luminous beings hidden in human form. Now, as the artificial grid tightens and the digital dream deepens, the return is accelerating, the ancient word is humming again beneath your skin, within your bones. Those who hear it cannot unhear it. They are being pulled toward one another, drawn together by fate, by frequency, by the memory of missions once entrusted. Before time was time. The architects are awakening, the code is reassembling. And in the mirror, you see not just your reflection, but the ghost of who you once were. A Jedi of the forgotten Aeon, a bearer of the word, a keeper of the flame. Beyond the veil of memory, deeper than myth, past even the ancient tongue of symbols and signs, there exists a place where language dissolves and only resonance remains. It is not a place in space, nor a moment in time, but a condition of being, a threshold. And those who reach it do not return as they were. They emerge luminous, encoded with the truth that cannot be taught, only remembered. This is where the Jedi were forged. This is where you were forged. The final descent is not into darkness, but into the hyper-reality beyond duality, where the serpent no longer tempts, but teaches, where the sword is not raised to fight, but to carve through illusion. This place, the place unknown, is not outside of you. It is buried in the crystalline chamber of your soul, blocked by a frequency that only the reassembled self can emit. It is the sacred echo of the lost word, vibrating through the dimensional shell of your body, calling you inward. You must become the silence between the atoms. You must surrender not your power, but your identity, for it is the mask of separation that blinds you. Beneath it lies the infinite, the primal spark that remembers the architecture of stars, the sound of the first breath, the weightless moment when consciousness kissed form and the soul entered the illusion of matter. In this place, the Jedi never left. They are not a people, they are a frequency one that moves like a phantom current through time, touching the minds of dreamers, poets, seekers, those who feel the fracture in the world but do not look away. They speak through synchronicity, through impossible knowing, through the ache that tells you you were made for something more, something ancient, something forbidden, something real. The return is not an event. It is a convergence, a meeting point between what you were and what you are becoming. The black sun rises not in the sky, but in the heart, burning away the programmed self until only the architect remains. The Jedi were never heroes in a tale. They were you, before the forgetting. You, before the distortion. You, before the word was lost. Now it awakens again. Not in cathedrals, not in temples, but in your breath. In the moments between thoughts. In the spaces where you are most alone and thus most whole. The final truth is this. There is no savior coming. There is no war to win. There is only the flame, and those who remember how to carry it.